The first question goes to the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Scheer. Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Chair, the Prime Minister so badly wanted to win a seat on the United Nations Security Council. Main promise in 2015. He spent the last 5 years selling out Canadian principles, cozying up to dictators and despots. He's even sent Canadian soldiers into harm's way to curry favor at the UN. Last night must have been a devastating blow to the Prime Minister. Simple question, was it worth it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians always expect their country to step up on the world stage, and that's exactly what we've done over the past 5 years. With our engagement on fighting climate change, on peacekeeping, on advancing the cause of women's equality, on development assistance and trade and economic growth, Canada has continued to engage in the world, and we will continue to engage constructively and positively in the world stage.
Today, I wrote a check in payment of $41,366. I expected and always had intended to pay the full cost of these trips.
Bill Morneau decides he has to pay for a $41,000 vacation. Well, to be exact, $41,366. This because he took a free trip with we back in 2017. Well, did he take one trip or was it 2 trips for him and his family? Bill Morneau's not exactly saying. He's being very vague about this. In fact, I put questions to his office, and a day later, I still haven't heard back from him. So we don't know what this is all about, but we do know that we has admitted that they gave him and his family at least 1 complimentary, if not 2 complimentary trips. This is very disturbing when we're talking about trips that cost more than $4,395 per person US in 2017. And it takes Morneau almost 3 years to pay his bill. Well, let's face it, Bill didn't forget to pay his bill. He wasn't sent the bill. He took free travel from an organization that he gives money to, which puts him in violation of the Conflict of Interest Act.
Mr. Scheer.
Except, Mr. Chair, that's not what he did. He remained silent when standing beside leaders of countries with terrible human rights records because he was afraid of offending them and losing their vote. That is his legacy in chasing this vanity project, Mr. Chair. The Prime Minister shook the hand of the Iranian Foreign Minister and even bowed just a month after that country's military shot down a plane with dozens of Canadians on it. So again, was it worth it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll take no lessons on international engagement from a party that promised to cut foreign aid in the last election. Fortunately, Canadians didn't agree with them and has returned a government that continues to look at staying positive and engaged on the world stage. Yes, we have always stood up clearly and strongly for human rights, for our values, and we will continue to, even as we engage constructively around the world.
That's why the Conservatives are asking for Morneau to resign. That and the big contract given to we, a place where his daughter works, a place where his family has been actively involved with donations, with trips, with everything else. They don't see a problem with it over at Liberal HQ. In fact, if there is a problem, it's not with Bill Morneau and it's not with Justin Trudeau, it's with Bardish Chagger. If you haven't noticed, all the Liberals are trying to make Bardish Chagger, the Minister for Youth, Diversity and Inclusion, the fall gal for this. Bill Morneau made comments in his opening remarks where he revealed this $41,000 vacation about Bardish Chagger being the one in charge. Then it was during questioning, he kept bringing up the fact that she was the one in charge, not him. Now watch this exchange between a Toronto Liberal MP, Julie Gersowitz, and Bill Morneau.
Can you just make it clear for the committee that it was the responsibility of Minister Chagger to actually sign the final contracts, and it wasn't with yourself or the finance department?
Well, your assertion is correct. It was not my responsibility to sign any of those agreements, nor to consider which organization would be receiving those contracts.
Okay, so obviously, Dershowitz and Morneau want you to believe that a junior minister who reports to the Heritage Department is fully responsible for $912 million coming out of the Employment and Social Services Development Department, approved by the Minister of Finance. Bardish Chagger has no ministry. She's just floating around. She has no ministry of her own. She has no ability to generate these kinds of funds, this kind of program, without the active participation of the Prime Minister in Bill Morneau. So I put that question to Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre and asked him, as a former cabinet minister, could you have ever gotten this money through cabinet when you were there without the finance minister being involved?
Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has sent billions of dollars of taxpayers' money to countries with economies more advanced than Canada's or led by dictators with terrible human rights records. That is his legacy. He's also turned his back on our friends and allies, voting in favor of one-sided anti-Israel resolutions at the United Nations in order to curry favor from countries who do not acknowledge Israel's right to exist. So again, was it worth it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we've continued to stand up strongly for Canadians' values and for Canadians' interests on the world stage. It is in our interest to see a more peaceful, more prosperous world in which everyone has a real and fair chance to succeed, and that's what we've been contributing to. On the question of Israel, we have stood strongly by Israel as a friend, but we have also expressed our concern about the annexation policy that they've put forward. These are issues that are complicated, but Canada will always stand true to its values and to our approach on the world stage.
Could you ever have put through a $912 million project by yourself without the support of the finance minister and the full knowledge and backing of the finance minister when you were in cabinet?
I feel badly for Minister Chagger. I think it's disgusting the way she's being treated. The fact that these men would blame her for their conduct. She is a junior minister who reports to the Heritage Department. This is an expenditure by the Employment Department, approved under authorities granted to the Minister of Finance and directed out of the PMO. The men responsible for this are Bill Morneau and Justin Trudeau. They accepted thousands of dollars of free gifts from this organization. They directed a $912 million nonsensical contribution to this organization. And for them to try and blame a junior minister who had no authority to do any of this is absolutely disgusting, and it symbolizes everything that is wrong with the rot at the head of this government.
Scheer.
Speaker, this House voted to list the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, as a terrorist entity. This Prime Minister refused to take action and do that. He's also refused to impose any Magnitsky Act sanctions on human rights abusers around the world, all in an attempt to curry favor with those dictators and despots at the United Nations, selling out Canada's values in pursuit of this seat. Now he comes back empty-handed, coming in last. So again, was it worth it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is always worth it for Canada to step up on the world stage. It is always worth it for us to reach out and fight for things like fighting climate change, fight for things like women's equality, fight for things like protecting our oceans, fighting for opportunities for Canadians around the world and opportunities for the vulnerable around the world. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect their government to step up on the world stage, and that's exactly what we did.
Mr. Scheer.
But that's not what he did, Mr. Speaker. You see, when he was in the same room as dictators and despots and leaders of countries with terrible records, he was silent. In fact, he stood right beside the president of Senegal when that president defended Senegal's laws making homosexuality a crime. The Prime Minister said nothing. He was silent. He's even using Canadian tax dollars to invest in oil and gas projects in other countries in order to win favor as well. So again, when we look at this government's record, when we look at his personal record on the world stage, our relationship with India has been damaged by his action. We have a worse trade deal than he inherited. He's angered with his erratic behavior our partners in the Pacific area. And at the end of it, he came home empty-handed. Was it worth it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has continued to stand strong on the world stage, to engage with countries around the world in need of support, in need of economic opportunity. We have consistently stood up for our values, unlike the Conservatives that have slashed protection for the world's most vulnerable women by not funding reproductive rights and services around the world, by not standing up for LGBT communities. Canada has always stood up for progressive values on the world stage, and we will continue to, Mr. Speaker.
With all due respect, you were going to take a free holiday from someone you consider a friend, but obviously you have a different definition of a friend than the Commissioner. You knew that they had a lobbying registry, that they were set up to lobby the government. How could it not have occurred to you that that might not have been okay?
The fact is, we work sorry, let me just try to reorder the thoughts. We worked with
Today, Junior?
the lobby conflict of interest commissioner on a regular basis on a broad range of issues when the issues come up. On this issue of a family vacation with a personal friend, it wasn't considered that there would be an issue there. We need to ensure that we are working together with our allies to find a path forward there, because a nuclear power like North Korea that has shown a level of irresponsibility and
the Liberal Party believes that terrorists should get to keep their Canadian citizenship. Because I do. And I'm willing to take on anyone who disagrees with that.
Is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly. Yes, thank you.
We can all learn from each other. We import more steel than the Americans import. Sorry, we have a significant trade surplus. The Americans have a significant trade surplus with us on steel, which means we buy steel from them, they buy steel from us.
British Columbia, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nunavut, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, or Newfoundland and Labrador. But we embrace that diversity while knowing in our hearts that we are all Canadians.
Well, deficits are a way of measuring the kind of growth and the kind of success that a government is actually able to create. And the budget will balance itself.